The converse, the inverse, the contrapositive. If you're given a conditional statement, in other words, an if-then statement, then we have related statements. We have the converse, the inverse, and the contrapositive. In other words, if you're given an if-then statement, from that statement, you could come up with a converse of the statement, an inverse of the statement, and a contrapositive form of the statement. So here's the statement. If P, then Q. An example, if I'm in San Francisco, then I'm in California. The first thing to do is to identify who's acting like the P and who's acting like the Q. Whatever comes after the if is the P. Whatever comes after the then is the Q. So for our statement, I'm in San Francisco is going to be the P. And I am in California is going to be the Q. So notice for the converse, you change the Q and the P. The statement was if P then Q. For the converse, it's if Q then P. So you switch what comes after the if with what comes after the then. So now it reads, if I'm in California, then I'm in San Francisco. For the inverse, if not P, then not Q. That would be the inverse. So you negate the P and the Q. That means you put not. So notice, if I am not in San Francisco, then I am not in California. So these nots came because of this negation. For the contrapositive, it's if not Q, then not P. So now our statement reads, if I am not in California, then I am not in San Francisco. One way of remembering what we need to do to change a statement, an if statement to a converse, inverse, and contrapositive form is the following way. Suppose this is a statement. If P, then Q. For the converse, think of reverse. So the P and the Q are going to switch places. Whatever the P was and whatever the Q is, they're going to switch places. So converse, one memory device is just think reverse. So converse, reverse. For the inverse, think of insert. So you start off with your if statement and you insert a negation in front of the P and the Q, and that's your inverse. For the contrapositive, you do both a switching around and an inserting. So switch these around. So instead of PQ, it's QP, and then insert a negation. And that would be the contrapositive. There's also a relationship between these statements. The statement, if P then Q, is equivalent to the contrapositive. If not Q, then not P. So if you say this, whatever value this has, and when we say value, we mean true or false. If this statement is true, this will be true. If the statement is false, the contrapositive will be false. The converse and the inverse are related. If the converse is true, then the inverse is true. If the converse is false, then the inverse is false. This symbol means equivalent.